Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Valerie.
Hey, it's so great to get connected to you. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for
So,
accommodating a bit earlier.
so let's start by introducing yourself and telling everybody a little bit about what you do at Progressive.
So I'm Sarah Norcross and I'm the director of the Progress Educational Trust, which is a charity that is based in the UK. And our vision is to improve choices for people who are affected by infertility and or genetic conditions. And so we do this through a range of activities, through our publication BioNews, which is easy to access for everybody online, which is the latest news and ethical debates in the area that we cover. And we organise events in the UK, and we're starting to film more and more of these so that people can watch them from overseas. And we also do policy work. So we do campaigns around funding for fertility treatment on our National Health Service, and also most recently our Extend the Limit campaign about social egg freezing, because there is a 10-year limit in the UK on that.
Yeah, so this law regarding the storage for oocytes or eggs for only 10 years has been around for quite some time, correct?
Yes, so that sort of really came in when the Act was last amended, which was in 2007, 2008, and it was then that the limit was extended for people who store their gametes, their eggs and sperm and embryos, for non-medical reasons. So they have 55 years as a maximum. But for people who do it for non-medical reasons, they only have 10 years. But if those people can demonstrate that they're going to have premature infertility, then they can then extend it to up to the 55-year maximum. Now, one of the difficulties is that what is premature infertility, and there hasn't been any case law to test what that means, but there is a consensus that it does mean it doesn't allow you to say I'm infertile now because I'm older. You're premature, so it cannot just be age related, and so that really then discriminates against women who have a clock, and the quality of their eggs deteriorates over time.
So your group has been collecting signatures to change this ruling in this law. Is that correct?
Yes. So at the end of October, we launched our Extend the Limit campaign, and with sort of a nice media fanfare, drawing attention to the issue. And also we launched a petition that was on the parliamentary website, so that if you get 10,000 signatures to that petition, then the government has to take notice of it. And if you get 100,000 signatures, the government then has to have a debate in Parliament about it. So it's a really good way of raising profile of issues like this, which are fairly niche in that there aren't huge numbers of women that are affected, but actually, are a big question of women's reproductive choice.
And so, where are you at today in November? So, a month after you launched this campaign, 2018, where are you at in the signature collection?
Well, there is a very sad story. So we launched it, and after the first week, we had 1,000 signatures.
Wow.
So fantastic! This is brilliant. Probably better than we'd have hoped in the first week. But then, because of our election, and this is a parliamentary petition, all parliamentary petitions were stopped. And they're not just paused for while the election. After the election, we would have to restart the petition from.
So all the signatures would have to re-sign again.
Absolutely. And so that we weren't given a heads up on this. Everybody basically got an email at the same time if they'd signed it to say
it's null and void.
Some bad news, exactly. So we couldn't even sort of put something out there.
Wow, that's very
And that
disheartening in this whole
this
debate.
is exactly. So, we're being positive and thinking, well, we got 1,000 signatures, a little over 1,000 signatures in week one. Hey, government, you've got to listen to us.
Yeah.
This is something clearly a serious issue for those people involved. And I think this is something that when people realise that women who want to use them or want to have the option to use them are being forced into making decisions either to destroy those eggs, to fertilise them with donor sperm, or to then apply to our regulator, the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, and have them exported overseas to then start storing them there and use them at a later date. And
It's a lot of
there are
choices.
expensive that. There's a lot of admin if you go for the latter. It's not a straightforward pathway to do that.
So what
And
would
then to destroy.
happen if the fertility clinics didn't destroy them? Would it be against the law? I mean, technically, do they have to abide by this law and actually destroy the gamete material?
Yes, technically they do. That is the law, and it's very clear. So that is the situation they're in. So they, good clinics will start to have a conversation early with the women that are in this situation. So
But maybe they're not being made aware of this early and having to make choices really fast.
Yes. So really, they need to start thinking about it at the very beginning of year 9 at the latest, and think about what they want to do, because it can take quite a lot of time to get an export license from the regulator.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
what they want to go down to.
That's very stressful.
They pass those things. So you've got to get all your paperwork in order, quite a bit in advance.
Yeah, that sounds like quite an ordeal. Now, there's no medical reason that anyone should need to actually have their gamete material destroyed. This is just a regulation in certain governments like the UK, because I think Australia and New Zealand also have a similar law. And
Yeah.
it sounds like there is no medical reason that this would occur. It's just a way to monitor all the storage, or is it initially put in place to help manage all of that?
Well, I think there's sort of probably a couple of reasons. So when the law was passed, the technology for freezing eggs was in its infancy, really.
Yeah.
And the vitrification, which is the method of cryopreservation, which is being used across the board now, has been proved to be much more effective and have better results than the old methods that we used. So one, it's much more efficient, and then two, I think the government were concerned about the number of eggs that may end up in storage. Now, I'm not really sure why that is an issue for government, because they're not paying for any of that, because it wouldn't be available on our health service. Right. So this is something between the woman and a private company. So I don't really understand why that should be a reason for limiting women's choice.
Yeah, and it does feel a little like gender biased, because I would actually assume that there be more embryos in place than there would be eggs, and these are very elective, expensive procedures. So to take the income that it takes to freeze one's eggs and then be forced to either move them or have them destroyed, well, if you froze them 10 years ago, likely you're of the reproductive age when you learned about it that you're now too old to freeze or continue to freeze now and still get the same results.
Yeah, and that is one of the sort of potentially perverse incentives that this law may have, is that women who are thinking about this may think, well, I'm not going to have it done now because I'm not sure the next 10 years is going to be better when it's going to be me to have a family, and so I've put it off, and all the time that you're putting it off, you're potentially then losing egg quality, and therefore minimising your chances of success in the future. Because at sort of each stage in the process of this as well, there's an attrition. So you have the egg collection. Not all eggs may be worthwhile freezing. Then you have the freezing, and then when they're thawed. Not all eggs may survive the thaw. Then there's the fertilization. When it comes to that stage, not all eggs may fertilize, and then the quality of those embryos may mean that not all go back in the freezer. And then, as we know, IVF doesn't work every time, so you need a number of embryos to give you any chances of success.
Right, so, and eggs are really where the starting point. Eggs are the starting point. And so if you don't have a lot of eggs, then you won't get to a live birth, which is the real goal of freezing in the first place. So it seems a little counterintuitive that the government should, destroy something that is so precious and also could be considered not life yet because it's just gamete material. So it's just a cell of one individual instead of, like, for example, an embryo. There's been debates on when life starts, when that, like, as far as like the Catholic Church and stuff. So here you are destroying one half of someone's DNA that they worked really hard to collect. And so are they doing this with sperm as well? I'm not 100% clear on that.
Yes, it is. It is the same for sperm, but obviously far fewer men. In fact, I'm not sure that any men have stored purely for social reasons, other than if they're sort of dangerous occupation, if they're about to go off to a war zone or, some other thing. And obviously men's fertility isn't subject to the same level of natural decline as women's is.
Right.
So,
and it's much easier to collect sperm.
His samples, but semen sample was destroyed when he was 36 because he'd frozen at 26. That probably wouldn't affect his chances of being a father. So.
Right, of course, and sperm is much easier to collect than egg collection is, and a lot less costly with all the hormones and medications that need to be taken in order to collect eggs. So so this is a real problem, and one that the government really should understand all sides of the issue, it sounds like. And your team is doing a fantastic job, not only getting the awareness out there with the hashtag extend the limit, but also just helping women understand that when they undergo elective procedures in the UK, for example, that this will be something they have to think about 10 years down the line if we don't make these changes. So,
yes.
So what can we do to help, especially if we don't live in one of the countries where Parliament is making these regulations? Does outside, like people from the States, can we add to the cause in any way? Can we help create awareness? Like, what would be some good takeaways for not only people that live in the UK to help the cause, but if you live outside of the UK?
So any sharing of our messages on social media, using your contacts who are in the UK, who can, once we get the petition back online again, because only people in the UK can sign that, can actually, get involved in that, and also, to make a noise about it. And the more, sort of media coverage that we have around this, the more blog posts there are, bringing awareness to this issue, it really does help to show the extent that this is being taken seriously, the way that perhaps our government is going to be criticised for not acting on this.
Right.
Because after all, who is harmed by this? Who is harmed by allowing women to store their eggs for an extra few years?
Right.
Nobody.
And why is there a time limit at all?
Balance,
Yeah, and why is there a time limit at all? Like, it should, I think there was an embryo that was actually made into a live birth and implanted in a couple. They donated the embryo, and I think the embryo was frozen for 40 years. So,
wow.
That's a long time, or 35 years, or something extraordinary like that.
years, because that's taking us back to the days of the
Yeah,
first time.
yeah, Louise Brown, right? But I'm sure there's gamete material that is still out there, and I know in the States, for example, it's just not a we're very hesitant to destroy anything because we know how hard it took to create these gamete materials or even embryos, and so unless, I mean, sometimes in order to destroy any material, fertility clinics get, informed consent. They get uh, double signatures from both parties. They have a witnessed signature, many different forms to make sure that they don't destroy something that they actually want to keep. So it's kind of shocking that these laws do exist because there doesn't seem to be a lot of scientific reason for them. And hopefully, your government officials will take notice of this and realize how traumatic that can be for patients, and how cumbersome and additional costs that one would incur just to move the DNA somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when, from the women that I've spoken to while we've been doing this campaign who have frozen their eggs, this isn't something that they rush into. This is something that they think about quite a lot because it's a medical procedure, it's not pleasant, and also it's quite expensive. They're usually funding this at a time in their lives when there's lots of other things that money could go on, like
Sure.
towards their mortgage for their house,
yeah,
or those sort of earlier in life
savings for retirement.
And so it seems particularly unfair that women who've chosen to do this are being penalised in this way. But I suppose there's also, Valerie, another important message that I want to sort of put out there with this as well is that social egg freezing does not guarantee people a baby. There are no guarantees in reproduction that you will come out at the end of the day with a live birth. And so as well, women need to really go into this thinking it's the right thing for them, being aware of the current restrictions, because I can't guarantee that they're going to change soon enough for everybody. I'm determined to get them changed, but our government can move very slowly on these issues, and at the moment where
there's a lot of women at stake. Yeah.
Parliament chaos, it could take longer than usual, but it's really, really fundamental to those women to try and have the opportunity of having a baby using their own eggs, because that is what they've invested both financially and emotionally and physically as well.
Right. And any eggs that are frozen is a better chance than they have today with their current egg supply. So while it's not guaranteed, I echo what you're saying, it's not guaranteed, it's a better chance than they currently have. And that must be extremely stressful for the patient that froze 10 years ago, like in 2007 or 2008 or 2009, and now are up against that 10-year threshold with it being 2019. So hopefully they can file those petitions and get extended requests in the meantime. Hopefully that is honored. But then hopefully we can get this law changed as well.
Yeah, so I don't think that women will be able to have a period of grace just because of the campaign. They will still have to make these tough choices until the law is changed. I just hope that at least if people are choosing to take them overseas, the process is a little bit more streamlined and set up to allow them to do this and not cause them to be destroyed because an administrative process cannot work in time to let them get their eggs out of the country.
Well, I think the important part is to use our voices, and especially with how online media and social media has changed, it doesn't hurt to ask, and if you don't ask, you don't get. And so we should challenge these rules because there's no scientific reason for them, and it is gender biased. And so hopefully we can help the individual women that are being affected by this today, and get it changed for other women in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for your help with that, Valerie. It's much appreciated.
Yes, you've been such a great resource for all the patients that are in your area and country, and so we appreciate your efforts, because I know that if something like this was in the States, we would definitely be on Parliament's door and knocking on, Congress's walls and saying, hey, this isn't okay. And
Yeah.
and so it's using our voices that help make change happen. So is there anything else you want the women that live in the UK, that if they're freezing now, what should they do to protect themselves? And if they've already frozen, how should they start getting involved?
So at the moment, it's watch this space. But as soon as Parliament is back open for business in the UK, we'll be starting the petition again, doing a new media launch. We're holding an event in which the topic will be discussed on the 8th of January in Edinburgh. And it will all kick off again, because we can't let this stall here. It's got to continue.
Yes. Well, we will call out to all of our friendly partners like IVF Babel, and call on great leaders like Louise Brown, and really help the campaign when it relaunches in 2020. So thanks so much for your time, Sarah. This has been a wonderful chat, and we definitely appreciate all the work you're doing at PET.
Great. Thank you.
Bye for now.